Welcome to the sleepy hours, a quiet space where dreams begin and worries fade.
What if the most beautiful things in the world only revealed themselves when everyone else was sleeping? What if there was a place where darkness wasn't something to fear, but something that awakened magic? In a world that rushes toward daylight, there exists a secret that blooms only in shadow. Picture moonlight filtering through ancient leaves, casting silver patterns that dance and shift with each gentle breeze. Imagine flowers that glow like fallen stars, their petals shimmering with an inner light that rivals the constellations above. There is someone walking among us who feels different, more alive in these quiet moments when the world has surrendered to sleep. She finds her truest self not in the harsh brightness of day, but in the velvet embrace of night. This is a story about discovering beauty in unexpected places, about learning that what others fear or overlook might hold the most extraordinary wonders. It's about understanding that some souls are meant to bloom when the sun sets, when silence replaces noise, when stillness becomes a doorway to magic. Tonight, we'll step into a garden where night is not an ending, but a beginning. We'll follow someone who has always known that darkness holds secrets, someone who is about to discover that the most magnificent garden in the world only reveals its treasures to those brave enough to embrace the mystery of nightfall. Before we enter this magical place, let us prepare ourselves by leaving behind the hurried pace of day. Take a moment now to breathe in the cool night air, drawing it deep into your lungs, and as you exhale, let go of all the brightness and urgency that daylight brings. Feel your breath naturally slowing, becoming as gentle and rhythmic as waves lapping against a moonlit shore. Let your shoulders drop like petals falling from a flower, releasing all the tension you've carried from the daylight hours. Your arms become heavy and relaxed, your hands uncurling like leaves opening to catch the dew. Feel the weight of the day melting away from your neck, your back, your legs, until you are as light and peaceful as a firefly drifting on the evening air. Imagine yourself wrapped in the softest twilight, a blanket of gentle darkness that holds you safe and warm. This is your sanctuary, your place of perfect rest, where nothing can disturb your peace. In darkness, you find not fear, but comfort. In stillness, you find not emptiness, but wonder. In silence, you find not loneliness, but the quiet companionship of the night itself. You are floating now, suspended between the waking world and the realm of dreams, like a dandelion seed carried on a warm summer breeze. The gentle sounds of evening surround you, the distant song of crickets creating a lullaby, the whisper of wind through leaves telling you ancient stories of peace. Your mind is becoming as clear and calm as a still pond reflecting the stars, ready to receive the magic that awaits in the garden that only blooms at night. In a small town where most people hurry home when the sun begins to set, there lives a young woman named Luna who finds her truest peace in the quiet hours after darkness falls. While others rush to fill their evenings with bright lights and constant noise, Luna works as a night librarian, surrounded by the gentle whispers of turning pages and the soft glow of reading lamps. Her work brings her joy because she understands something that others have forgotten, that darkness is not empty but full of possibilities. Luna's small cottage sits at the very edge of town, where the neat rows of houses give way to wild, untamed land. Behind her home stretches a field that everyone else dismisses as nothing more than weeds and brambles, an eyesore that the town council has discussed clearing for years, but never quite gets around to addressing. But Luna has never seen it as ugly or worthless. To her, it holds a mystery that she can't quite name, a sense of something sleeping just beneath the surface. Each evening, Luna follows the same gentle ritual that brings her comfort and peace. She brews a cup of chamomile tea, letting the steam carry its soothing fragrance through her small kitchen. She lights a single soft lamp by her favorite chair, creating a circle of warm light that feels like an embrace. On her windowsill, she tends to her collection of herbs: lavender for peace, mint for clarity, rosemary for remembrance. These simple plants seem to glow a little brighter in her care, as if they too understand the magic that lives in quiet moments. As she sits by her window each night, gazing out at that mysterious field, Luna always wonders what secrets the darkness might be keeping. She has always felt that she belongs more to the night than to the day, that her soul blooms most fully when the world grows still and the stars emerge to keep her company. Each night, she notices something different about that field, some subtle shift in shadow, or the way the moonlight falls across its seemingly empty expanse, and she finds herself drawn to its mystery more and more. On this particular evening, something feels different from the moment Luna settles into her chair with her steaming cup of tea. The air itself seems to hum with a quiet energy, as if the night is holding its breath in anticipation of something wonderful. The usual sounds of evening seem softer, somehow more musical, and even her windowsill herbs appear to lean toward the glass, as if they too sense the change that's coming. As Luna gazes out toward the field, she notices the faintest glow emanating from somewhere beyond the brambles. It's not the harsh glare of electric light or the flickering orange of fire, but something far more gentle and alive, like starlight that has somehow been captured in dewdrops and scattered across the earth. The light pulses softly, almost like a heartbeat, and with each gentle pulse, Luna feels her own heart begin to beat in rhythm with this mysterious radiance. Tonight is different, and Luna knows it in the deepest part of her soul. Something is calling to her from that field, something that has been waiting patiently for just the right moment to reveal itself. The pull is gentle but undeniable, like the tide drawing shells back to the sea. She sets down her teacup, her hands trembling slightly, not with fear, but with the excitement of discovery, and makes her way to the back door of her cottage. The cool night air greets her like an old friend as she steps outside, and she notices that the usual tangle of thorns and weeds at the edge of the field seems somehow softer in the moonlight. They're barely visible in the grass. She sees what looks like the beginning of a path she has never noticed before, winding away into the glowing mystery beyond. Luna follows the barely visible path with wonder growing in her heart, each step carrying her further from the familiar world of her cottage and deeper into something that feels like a dream made real. As she approaches what she has always thought were impenetrable brambles and thorny weeds, she reaches out her hand, expecting to feel the sharp bite of thorns. Instead, the branches part before her touch, like silk curtains being drawn aside, revealing themselves to be far softer and more welcoming than they had ever appeared from her window. Beyond this gentle gateway lies the most extraordinary sight Luna has ever beheld. Neat pathways wind between carefully tended garden beds, their borders marked with smooth stones that seem to glow faintly in the moonlight. Everything is arranged with such perfect care and attention that it's clear this is no wild field, but a garden that has been lovingly maintained for years. Yet, in the pale light of the moon, all the beds appear empty, filled with what looks like bare soil and dormant plants that show no sign of life or color. As Luna stands there, trying to understand what she's seeing, she notices a figure moving slowly among the seemingly barren beds. An elderly man with kind eyes and gentle hands kneels beside one of the empty patches, tending to what appears to be nothing more than dark earth. His movements are patient and reverent, as if he's caring for the most precious treasures in the world. Though Luna can see nothing growing in the soil where he works, the garden keeper, for that's clearly what he is, looks up at Luna with a smile that holds no surprise, as if he's been expecting her arrival for a very long time. His eyes twinkle with secrets and warmth as he rises slowly to his feet, brushing the rich earth from his hands. He speaks in a voice soft as wind through leaves, saying simply, "Wait, you're just a bit early. The night isn't quite deep enough yet for the real magic to begin." Luna finds herself drawn to sit beside the garden keeper on a smooth stone bench that seems to have been placed there just for this moment. Together, they wait in comfortable silence as the night deepens around them, and Luna feels a peace she has never experienced before. The garden keeper's presence is like that of a beloved grandfather, radiating patience and understanding, and she knows instinctively that she is safe here in this mysterious place. As the deepest part of night finally arrives, when even the last windows in the distant town have gone dark and the world has surrendered completely to sleep, something magical begins to happen. The seemingly empty garden beds start to stir with life, and Luna watches in wonder as flowers begin to unfurl from what appeared to be bare soil moments before. They bloom like they're breathing, their petals opening slowly and deliberately, releasing the most extraordinary soft light in shades of deep blue, gentle purple, and shimmering silver. The garden keeper's eyes grow bright with joy as he watches Luna's face fill with amazement. "This garden only blooms in complete darkness," he explains gently. "These flowers have been sleeping all day, waiting for the world to grow quiet enough for their true beauty to emerge. I've been tending them for many years, waiting for someone who would truly appreciate the magic of night to find their way here." Luna feels tears of wonder gathering in her eyes as she watches the luminous blooms sway gently in the night breeze. The sight reminds her of summer evenings long ago when she was a child, hunting fireflies with her grandmother in the meadow behind the old farmhouse. Her grandmother had taught her that the most beautiful things often revealed themselves only to those who were patient enough to wait and gentle enough to watch. Now, surrounded by these glowing flowers, Luna understands that this garden is a gift meant for souls like hers, souls that find their truest home in the embrace of darkness. The garden keeper's voice grows even softer as he says, "But this is only the beginning garden, child. Would you like to see where the night flowers really dance?" The garden keeper leads Luna along a winding path that seems to be made of crushed moonbeams, each step carrying them deeper into this realm where ordinary rules no longer apply. As they walk, Luna hears the gentle sound of water flowing somewhere ahead, and soon they come upon a moonlit stream that winds its way between garden beds filled with the most extraordinary flowers she has ever imagined. These blooms don't simply glow like the ones in the entrance garden. They seem to sway to music that exists just beyond the edge of hearing, as if they're dancing to the rhythm of the night itself. Here, in what the garden keeper calls the heart garden, Luna sees flowers that tell stories with their very presence. Ancient night-blooming cereus unfurl their magnificent white petals, flowers that bloom only once a year and only for those fortunate enough to witness their brief, perfect moment of glory. Jasmine vines release their deepest, most intoxicating fragrance into the night air, a scent so pure and lovely that it seems to heal something in Luna's soul that she didn't even know was wounded. Moonflowers spiral open in slow, hypnotic spirals, their faces following the path of the stars across the sky. As Luna kneels beside the flowing stream to touch the cool water, she sees her own reflection looking back at her, but something has changed. In the water's surface, she appears to be glowing with the same gentle light as the flowers around her, as if she too is part of this magical garden. The realization fills her with a sense of belonging she has never felt before, but also with a gentle uncertainty. She understands that she belongs here among these night-blooming wonders, but she doesn't yet understand why or what it means. From somewhere deeper in the garden comes the sound of a distant melody, so faint and beautiful that Luna isn't sure if she's hearing it with her ears or with her heart. The music seems to be calling to her, inviting her to discover even greater mysteries that lie hidden in the depths of this enchanted place. As Luna sits by the moonlit stream, listening to the distant melody and watching her glowing reflection, a profound understanding begins to bloom within her heart, like one of the magical flowers around her. She realizes that she has always been someone who comes alive in the quiet moments when the world grows still and her truest self can emerge. Her creativity, her peace, her deepest joy have never flourished in the harsh brightness of day or in the noise and rush that others seem to crave. Instead, like these extraordinary flowers, she blooms in gentle darkness, in solitude, in the sacred silence that others fear or misunderstand. The garden keeper settles beside her on the soft grass, his presence warm and reassuring without words. He helps her understand that there is nothing wrong with being different, nothing broken in a soul that finds its home in moonlight rather than sunlight. All her life, Luna has wondered if there was something missing in her, some essential piece that would help her fit into the bright, loud world that everyone else seemed to navigate so easily. But here, surrounded by flowers that only reveal their true beauty in darkness, she finally understands that her nature is not a flaw to be fixed, but a gift to be treasured. The realization fills her with a warmth that starts in her heart and spreads through her entire being. She no longer feels alone in her love of quiet evenings and starlit walks, in her preference for the company of books over crowds, in her deep appreciation for the magic that lives in stillness. The garden has shown her that there are others like her, that the world needs souls who can see beauty where others see only emptiness, who can find wonder in what others dismiss as ordinary darkness. As this understanding settles into her bones, like a blessing, the flowers around her seem to sense her transformation. Their glow grows brighter, their movements more graceful, and then something truly extraordinary happens. The night-blooming flowers begin to emit not just light, but the softest, most beautiful melodies Luna has ever heard, each bloom contributing its own voice to a symphony of pure magic. The night-blooming flowers sing with voices like crystal bells and silver chimes, each melody a lullaby that speaks of peace, a love song dedicated to the beauty of darkness, a celebration of all the quiet souls who find their home in gentle shadows. Luna discovers that she can hear what others cannot, that her ears are attuned to frequencies of wonder that most people have forgotten how to perceive. The jasmine hums low and sweet. The Sirius sings in crystalline notes that make the stars themselves seem to twinkle in rhythm. And the moonflowers add their voices in harmonies that weave through the night air like invisible ribbons of pure joy. As the flower symphony grows richer and more complex, something even more magical begins to happen. The melodies seem to lift the glowing petals from their stems, and Luna watches in breathless wonder as hundreds of luminous flowers begin to dance through the air around her. They move like living constellations, swirling and spinning in graceful patterns that follow the rhythm of their own celestial music. Some flowers waltz together in pairs, others form intricate spirals that rise toward the moon, and still others create flowing rivers of light that cascade through the garden like waterfalls made of stars and song. Time becomes as fluid and dreamlike as the dancing petals themselves. Luna cannot tell if she has been in this magical garden for minutes or hours, and it no longer matters. She exists in a space between heartbeats, in the pause between one breath and the next, where ordinary rules dissolve and only beauty remains. The garden keeper's gentle laughter mingles with the flower songs, and Luna realizes that this moment of pure magic needs no explanation, no logic to make it real. Some wonders are meant to be experienced with the heart rather than understood with the mind. The dancing flowers seem to be performing just for her, celebrating her arrival in this realm where night-blooming souls can finally be fully themselves. Each swirling petal, each floating melody, each impossible moment of beauty exists because she has learned to embrace the magic that lives within her own quiet nature. As the last notes of the flower symphony fade into the gentle silence of deep night, the garden keeper rises and walks over to where Luna sits, surrounded by the slowly settling petals that drift back to their stems, like sleepy butterflies returning to their flowers. His eyes hold infinite kindness as he helps her understand the most important truth of all. This garden has always existed within her. In every moment when she found peace in twilight, discovered beauty in solitude, or felt wonder bloom in the quiet hours when the rest of the world rushed past without seeing. Every time Luna had sat by her window watching the mysterious field, every evening when she felt more alive as darkness fell, every quiet moment when she sensed magic hiding just beyond the edge of ordinary sight, she had been tending her own night-blooming soul. The garden didn't create this magic within her. It simply revealed what had always been there. waiting patiently for her to recognize and embrace her own extraordinary nature. The garden keeper takes her hand gently and begins to walk with her back toward the entrance. But now Luna can see the path clearly, illuminated not just by moonlight, but by her own inner understanding. The way back feels different than the journey in men, not because she is leaving the magic behind, but because she is taking it with her. The garden will always be here when darkness falls, he explains in his gentle voice, because it lives within. Those who truly see the beauty that hides in night, who understand that some of the most precious things in the world only reveal themselves to patient, quiet hearts as they reach the silk-soft barrier that had seemed like thorns when she first approached. Luna realizes that she will never again see this field as empty or ordinary. She knows now that magic lives everywhere for those who have learned to look with night-blooming eyes, and that the garden's greatest gift was not showing her something new, but helping her recognize the wonder she had carried within herself all along. The ordinary darkness that surrounds her home now holds gentle magic in every shadow, every whisper of wind through the trees, every soft gleam of starlight on her windowsill. The lavender and rosemary and mint appearing more vibrant and alive than ever before, as if they too have been touched by the magic she discovered in the night-blooming garden. As she settles back into her favorite chair by the window, Luna notices that the night air carries whispered melodies that only she can hear, faint echoes of the flower songs that continue to bloom in gardens, both seen and unseen. The stars seem to be blooming like flowers against the velvet darkness, each one a tiny celebration of the magic that lives in quiet moments in darkness. There is beauty waiting to be discovered by patient eyes. In quiet, there is song for those who know how to listen with their hearts. In night, there is peace for souls who understand that some wonders only reveal themselves when the world grows still, a sanctuary within herself, where magic grows in the fertile soil of solitude and silence. You are safe in the gentle night, just as Luna is safe in her cottage, surrounded by invisible flowers and melodies that dance through the air like blessings. Who find wonder in stillness, who understand that darkness is not empty but full of sleeping miracles, waiting for the right moment to bloom. Let yourself where dreams grow like luminous flowers and peace flows like moonlit streams through the garden of sleep. Somewhere in the space between sleeping and waking, where thoughts become as soft as flower petals and time moves like honey through moonbeams, night flowers are blooming just for you. In that quiet place where your breath grows deep and slow, where your heartbeat becomes a gentle lullaby, a single extraordinary flower is opening in the garden of your dreams. This flower carries all the peace of Luna's magical garden, all the wonder of melodies that dance on evening air, all the comfort of knowing that you belong exactly as you are. Its petals unfold in perfect silence, glowing with the same gentle light that lives within your own quiet soul, blooming in the darkness, not because it needs to prove anything to the bright world, but simply because it is beautiful, and beauty shared in silence is the most precious gift of all. Rest now in the garden of sleep, where every breath you take tends the flowers of peace, where every moment of stillness allows new wonders to bloom in the fertile darkness of dreams. The night holds you safe, the silence sings you lullabies, and somewhere beyond the edge of waking, Magical gardens bloom eternal in the gentle embrace of endless, peaceful night. And now, as the stars lean in a little closer, let's drift into our next bedtime story, where new dreams are waiting just beyond the moonlight. In a forgotten valley where the wind no longer whispered, and even the stars seemed to have drifted away, there remained a single flicker of light. It wasn't the kind of light that burned with heat or filled the sky in bold brilliance. No, this light was quieter than that, gentler, softer, something you might miss if you blinked too long or breathed too loud. It moved with purpose, slowly and tenderly, as if it were guarding something fragile and precious. And perhaps it was the valley. Once a cradle of laughter and glowing wings had grown still. The fireflies that once danced like constellations through the long grasses and lily-laced streams had vanished. One by one, they had faded with the years, their lights swallowed by time, until only one remained, the last firefly. It flickered, alone now, moving through the mist like a memory no one remembered to remember. But it did not leave. It stayed. Night after night, it pulsed its quiet light over stones that once held songs, over tree roots that once heard stories whispered into the wind. It stayed even when no eyes watched it, even when the valley forgot its own name. It stayed as if waiting. Not far from the edge of this valley, in a crooked little house with ivy climbing the windows and a chimney that puffed unevenly like an old man's sigh, lived a child with the kind of eyes that noticed things. Noticed the way morning dew clung to petals like tears. Noticed the sound of silence when the world should have been humming. The child had never seen a firefly with their own eyes, but they believed in them. Every evening, after the world tucked itself in, the child would lean on the windowsill and stare into the valley, always hoping for one small glimmer to pierce the dark. And then, one night, it did. It was barely a blink of gold against the endless blue-black, but the child saw it. A light, a pulse, there, and then gone. Their heart stumbled in its rhythm, not with fear, but with wonder. Was it real, or just a dream slipping between their lashes? The next night it returned, closer this time, then again the night after, and closer still, until one evening the firefly did not vanish at all. It hovered at the edge of the grass, just beyond the child's fence, glowing like a heartbeat, slow, steady, waiting. There are stories we don't hear with our ears, stories that drift like petals through the air, only caught by those who have the heart to notice them. This was one of those stories, a tale too soft to be shouted, too sacred to be written in books. It was a story about the last firefly, about a valley that forgot its own light, and about a child who still believed in things unseen. Tonight, that story will open like a lantern. In the dark, tonight, we begin the last firefly in the Elia luminous tale of hope and quiet courage. Take a slow, deep breath, as if you're breathing in the cool scent of moss and moonlight. Let your chest rise like the gentle swell of a hill under twilight. And as you exhale, imagine everything heavy melting down into the ground. Let the muscles in your shoulders soften. Let your jaw loosen. Let your eyelids grow heavier with each passing breath. The world outside your room grows quiet now, like the hush that settles over the valley before sleep comes to call. There is nothing to do, nowhere to be. Only this moment, only stillness. Now imagine yourself lying in a field just beyond the edge of the world. The ground is soft beneath you, covered in a cushion of cool grass and tiny wildflowers that smell faintly of honey and rain. The sky stretches above like a velvet blanket, dark and deep, holding 1,000 stars that blink with sleepy rhythm. A faint breeze rustles through tall grass, brushing against your skin like a lullaby. The air is cool and clean, as if every leaf and stone has just been kissed by a passing cloud. You are safe here, safe and unseen, as if the world itself is cradling you in its arms. Let your awareness drift slowly from the crown of your head down to your toes. Feel your forehead smooth, your scalp release, your neck relaxes, and your breath becomes softer. Your shoulders sink downward, as though all the weight they carried has simply floated away. Down your arms, your elbows, your hands loose and light. Your chest rises and falls like the tide, peaceful and steady. Your stomach is soft. Your spine unwinds. Your legs are warm and grounded. Your feet relaxed. Your toes quiet. And now, imagine that just beside you, hovering low to the ground, there's a soft golden light. It pulses slowly, like a heartbeat made of stars. A single firefly, the last one. It floats without sound, drifting in lazy circles above the grass, casting a gentle glow that stretches across your fingertips and shimmers over the petals nearby. You don't need to move. You don't need to reach. The firefly is not here to be caught. It's here to be witnessed, to be trusted, to share its light with you. In this quiet space, there is only calm. You are far from the noise of the day, far from the tangled thoughts and ticking clocks. Here, there is only the hush of wind through leaves and the sound of your own gentle breath. The firefly drifts closer, and its glow begins to ripple outward, painting the night around you in slow-moving gold. Each flicker is like a wordless lullaby. Each pulse tells your body it's time to let go, to sink, to dream. Imagine now that the firefly rises into the sky, trailing a faint ribbon of light behind it. You follow it, not with your feet, but with your breath, with your mind. You drift after it, as if you too were made of light and air. The earth below grows softer, more distant. You float through the velvet dark like a star, untethered. Trees sway below like shadows in a dream. Water shimmers in silver curves across the valley floor. And still, the firefly leads you forward, gentle and steady, as if it knows the way through this dream space. You begin to feel something open within you, a quiet knowing, a sense of peace that doesn't need words. It's the same feeling you get when you hear a lullaby sung from another room, or see the first light of dawn stretch across the ceiling. A feeling that you are held, that you belong, that there is still something glowing in this world, and it's waiting for you to see it. Let yourself drift in this feeling now. No thoughts, no effort, just glow, just breath, just sleep, hovering close, like a friend at your bedside. You are not alone. You are part of the hush, the stillness, the soft turning of the earth beneath the stars. You are the field. You are the night. You are the light. And just beyond this breath, the story begins to unfold. The valley stretched far beyond the village, cradled between low hills that rose like sleeping giants. It was a place people rarely visited anymore. The old paths were overgrown, the wooden signs faded and half swallowed by moss. But from the second-floor window of a crooked little house on the edge of town, the valley was always visible, silent and still, like a forgotten page in a well-loved book. In that house lived a child named Elia. She was quiet in the way rain is quiet, soft, but always listening. Her eyes were the kind that noticed small things others overlooked, the way dandelion seeds danced in spirals before landing, how shadows shifted shape when no one was watching, how silence could say more than words. Elia had a routine, one that began each evening as the sky folded itself into lavender and silver. After dinner, she would pull the creaky stool up to the windowsill and rest her chin on folded arms. Her gaze would drift past the trees, past the narrow stream that divided the village from the wild, and into the dusky belly of the valley. She watched, always watched, though nothing ever came. Long ago, her grandmother had told her stories of the fireflies. Elia had never seen one, not truly, not outside of the watercolor illustrations in an old bedtime book with corners that curled and pages that smelled like sleep. But her grandmother's voice had made them feel real. The fireflies, she would whisper, were the valleys, stars. They'd float just above the grasses, blinking like little heartbeats. When you stood still and quiet, they'd come close, and for a moment you'd forget what sadness was. That was before the world grew dim. People stopped speaking of fireflies. They stopped walking the forest trails at dusk. And when Elia whispered to others that maybe, just maybe, one firefly was still out there, they smiled gently and said she had a beautiful imagination. But Elia wasn't imagining. She was remembering something she never lived but somehow knew. Her life was simple. School in the mornings, books in the afternoons, tea with her father at 4. But it was the nights that stirred her soul, the blue hour when the world softened and the wind told stories only those who listened could hear. Each night, her eyes scanned the valley for a flicker, just one, a shimmer of proof that some magic still lingered in the world, something gentle, something true. And then came the night that changed everything. It was colder than usual, the kind of cold that made the windows sweat and the wood floors whisper beneath the weight of footsteps. Elia climbed to her usual spot, tucking her arms beneath her chin, half asleep in her gaze. The valley lay quiet, draped in fog like a dream not yet fully formed. She sighed, ready to turn away, when something moved. A pulse, small, soft, a golden flicker, hovering just above the edge of the tall grass. She blinked. It was gone. Her breath caught, not from fear, but from wonder. Had she really seen it? She leaned closer, heart thudding gently beneath her nightshirt. The fog shifted, then stilled. The light did not return, but something inside her had stirred. A question, a memory, a hope. The next evening, she was there again before the sun had fully dipped below the hills. And there it was, just at the edge of the valley, a single light, glowing steady. It hovered for a breath, then drifted slowly out of view, as if inviting her to follow. That night, she barely slept. Her mind spun with thoughts of fireflies and forgotten places, of things once told in whispers that now called in silence. Something was changing. Something had begun. She always wondered what lay beyond the edge of the valley, and now she would find out. The next evening arrived, wrapped in a hush, as if the world were holding its breath. Elia stood at her window before the sun had fully dipped, eyes scanning the meadow that blurred into the edge of the valley. Her heart fluttered with a quiet anticipation, the kind that lives in the space just before something begins. She clutched the windowsill with both hands, knuckles pale against the soft wood, and waited. There it was. The light, faint and golden, like the first star in a twilight sky. It appeared just above the tall grass, hovering steady, pulsing with the rhythm of something ancient and kind. Elia didn't move, not at first. She only watched, eyes wide and breath silent, as the firefly shimmered in place, then drifted forward. A few feet, and paused. It lingered, waited, then pulsed again, brighter this time. It wanted her to come. For a long moment, she hesitated. The door was only a few steps away. Her boots were just beneath the coat rack. Her coat hung like a shadow on its hook, but leaving the house at this hour into the valley, into the unknown, was something she'd never done. The firefly pulsed, again, as if it could feel her fear and was willing to wait. Its light did not demand. It invited. Elia moved quietly, careful not to wake the floorboards. She pulled on her boots, the thick wool socks swallowing her feet, then slipped into her coat and tucked a small notebook into her pocket. She didn't know why she brought it, only that it felt right. She opened the front door, stepped into the dusk, and closed it gently behind her. The air was cool and still, the kind of stillness that made even sound feel sacred. The firefly hovered at the edge of the fence now, just beyond the last post. As Elia approached, it didn't retreat. It floated in place, waiting for her to step past the invisible line between what she knew and what she didn't. And when she did, the world seemed to shift. The air felt different here, thicker, like it remembered things the rest of the world had forgotten. The trees leaned in close, as though they recognized her. The wind brushed her cheeks like an old friend. The firefly pulsed once more and began to drift forward, slow and steady, lighting the path just enough for her to follow. They moved through the overgrown trail, past a crumbling stone wall swallowed by ivy, past a crooked gate that creaked softly. As she pushed it open, Elia didn't speak. She barely breathed. The firefly led her through pockets of silver mist and beneath low branches where tiny beads of dew caught the last of the light and glittered like forgotten stars. The valley felt alive, not in the loud, beating way the world sometimes feels, but in a deeper way, a hum beneath the silence. As they walked, Elia saw things she had never noticed from her window. The way the trees curved inward to form a canopy like sheltering arms. How the grass, though wild and uncut, grew in spirals, as if shaped by memory. The scent of lavender still clung faintly to the air, as though something had only recently passed through. They came to a small clearing nestled between two willow trees, their branches long and weeping like threads of shadow. The firefly paused there, hovering at eye level. Its glow illuminated something round and smooth, nestled in the grass. A stone, it was carved with the outline of a firefly, barely visible beneath moss and years of rain. Elia knelt beside it, brushing the surface gently with her sleeve. The carving was delicate, almost reverent. Beneath it, in faint letters, was a name so worn she could only make out the first few letters. Elia. She touched the stone with her fingertips, not to claim it, but to feel its story. A flicker of warmth ran through her. Not heat, memory. She looked up. The firefly was still there, still glowing, still waiting. Elia stood slowly, the breeze curling around her, as if to steady her. The path ahead was darker now, the mist thickening, but the light remained. She took a breath and followed. The firefly floated ahead, leading Elia deeper into the valley's embrace. Each step felt lighter than the last, as though gravity itself was softening its grip. The mist parted just enough to reveal a winding trail that had once been walked, though now it wore the quiet blanket of years untouched. Petals glowed faintly in the undergrowth like soft embers left behind by old magic. Elia didn't speak. There was no need. The silence here wasn't empty, it was full of listening. They passed beneath an arch of twisted branches, their bark silvered with age. Beyond it, the trail widened, opening into a grove she had never seen before. The trees here were taller, older, their trunks thick with moss and roots like sleeping serpents curling into the earth. In the center of the grove stood a pond, its surface still as glass, mirroring the soft movement of the firefly above. Elia stepped to its edge, and for a moment she wasn't sure which world she was in, the one above or the one beneath the reflection. Then she noticed something strange. Tiny lights, like forgotten stars, flickered just beneath the water's surface. At first, she thought they were more fireflies, but they didn't move. They twinkled in place, fixed in patterns that felt familiar. She crouched down, eyes narrowing, breath caught. The longer she looked, the clearer the pattern became. Constellations. She was looking at a map of stars, one she remembered tracing on her bedroom ceiling as a child. The same shapes, the same arcs, the same cluster her grandmother once said was called the lantern nest, where old fireflies went to dream. Elia reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her notebook. Her fingers trembled slightly as she sketched the lights, wanting to keep this discovery before it could fade. The firefly hovered closer, its glow casting a golden hue over the page, making the ink shimmer like warm rain. As she drew, she noticed something new. Along the outer edge of the pond were stones, round and worn, set in a perfect circle. Each one had a carving, some of wings, some of spirals, one of a small lantern. She walked slowly around the edge, her fingertips brushing each stone as if greeting old friends. Some of the carvings were covered in moss, others clean and clear, as though someone had visited recently. The air shifted. A soft gust moved through the trees, and Elia heard the faintest sound. Not a voice exactly, not a word, but something like a sigh or a hum, the kind of sound that comes from memory. It drifted through the grove, warm and low, and made her heart ache without knowing why. The firefly pulsed 3 times, slow, bright. Certain. Elia stood in the center of the stone circle, her boots pressing gently into the moss. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. For a moment, the breeze carried a scent she hadn't smelled in years, rosemary and cinnamon, like her grandmother's kitchen during winter. The memory wrapped around her like a scarf, soft and sudden. Her throat tightened. A feeling stirred that she couldn't name, one that felt like a question long forgotten. The firefly circled her slowly, trailing light like a ribbon. She opened her eyes and whispered without meaning to, "What is this place?" The firefly paused, then rose higher, drifting toward a narrow path that led out of the grove. The invitation was clear. There was more to see, more to understand. Elia glanced once more at the pond and the sleeping stars beneath its skin. Then she followed. The path beyond the grove was narrow, cushioned with soft moss that gave beneath Elia's steps like earth remembering footsteps from long ago. The firefly floated just ahead, its golden glow brushing the branches and setting shadows into motion. Though the sky above remained hidden beneath a veil of trees, the air had changed. It was warmer now, tinged with something sweet, like sugar melting on the edge of a flame. The trail wound through thickets of lavender and tall grass, opening suddenly into a clearing bathed in pale silver light. Nestled beneath the boughs of an old willow tree was a small wooden bench, half swallowed by vines. On the bench sat a weathered object, wrapped in oilcloth and tied with a faded ribbon. The firefly hovered directly above it, its light steady, waiting. Elia approached slowly, her breath shallow with curiosity. She knelt beside the bench and reached out. The ribbon fell away like breath, the cloth parting to reveal a book thin, its cover soft with age, corners rounded from use. She lifted it gently and opened the first page. Inside, a name was written in flowing ink, Leora, her grandmother's name. She turned the pages slowly, careful not to tear the fragile parchment. It was a journal. Each entry dated and written in the same careful hand she had seen before in old letters at home. The words were soft, reflective, full of wonder. Leora had written about the valley, about the fireflies, about walking these same paths when she was a child. She had followed them, just like Elia was doing now. One passage stopped her. They say the fireflies disappeared when the world stopped listening, but I don't believe they left. I think they're waiting. I think they glow for those who still believe in quiet magic, in soft things that endure. I hope one day someone will find this place again. Maybe someone I love. Maybe someone who remembers me. Elia's breath caught. Her hand trembled slightly on the page. It was as if time folded in that moment, as if her grandmother was standing behind her, smiling the way she used to when telling stories by candlelight. A warmth filled her chestnut heat, not fire, but something deeper. A remembering. She closed the book softly and held it to her heart. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, not from sadness, but from something else, the kind of ache that comes when something lost is found, even for a moment. She sat on the bench, the book beside her, and looked up at the willow branches swaying in the hush of wind. The firefly drifted down and hovered near her shoulder, its light now slow and comforting. Elia didn't speak. She didn't need to. The silence around her was no longer empty. It was full of presence, full of her grandmother's words, full of every evening she had spent at the window, waiting, hoping, believing. The firefly pulsed once, and Elia felt her own breath fall into rhythm with its light. She stayed there for a long time, cradled in the warmth of memory, in the knowing that she had not come here by accident, that something had been guiding her, that this valley still held stories, still held love, and that even when the world grows quiet, some lights do not go out. They wait, they remember, they endure. And yet, as the breeze shifted and the mist returned, Elia felt something stirred deep within her. Something still felt unfinished. Elia stood beneath the willow, her hands still warm from holding her grandmother's journal. The firefly had risen now, drifting upward in a slow spiral, as if inviting her once more to follow. The air was changing again, softening into something stranger, dreamier. There was no path this time, only a curtain of mist that opened as the firefly passed through. Elia stepped forward without question, her boots making no sound against the earth. She entered a part of the valley that felt untouched by time. The air shimmered faintly, as if woven with threads of light too thin for the eye to hold. Trees grew in patterns, here wide oaks forming natural arches overhead, their leaves glowing faintly as if they had remembered the stars. Moonlight pooled on the ground in patches that changed shape when she blinked, like stories moving just beneath the surface of the world. In the center of this space stood a staircase, not of stone, but of books. Old, open books, stacked with quiet reverence, their pages fluttering though there was no wind. The firefly circled them, casting golden rings across the open words. Elia approached, and as she did, the titles rose. From the covers, like whispers, names she knew, stories she'd heard, lullabies she hadn't remembered until now. Her grandmother's voice echoed faintly through the air, not with words, but with a tone, a melody of comfort. She climbed the steps slowly. Each book beneath her foot was a memory, though not all of them were hers. Some felt borrowed, shared. One page held a pressed daisy. Another, a recipe for honey cakes, written in uneven script. One was blank, but still warm to the touch. When she reached the top, she found herself standing in a library without walls, shelves made of roots and stone, glowing orbs floating between them like sleeping stars. The firefly hovered at her side. She walked between the shelves, each one humming with quiet life. Some books pulsed gently when she passed, responding to her nearness. Others stayed still, sleeping. She came to a table carved from a tree trunk, where a single object rested in the center, a small glass jar sealed with a wooden stopper. Inside was a single feather-light glow, curled like a sleeping ember. As she looked closer, she realized it was a firefly, not alive, not dead, resting, preserved like a dream in waiting. Etched around the base of the jar were words she had never seen, yet somehow understood. When all else fades, light remembers. Her hand hovered over it, but didn't touch. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered to the room, "I remember, too." The firefly at her side pulsed brighter, and suddenly the lights around the library began to shimmer. Shapes formed in the air, figures drawn of mist and golden threads. A child reaching for the sky, a woman with a lantern, a figure playing a flute beneath a tree. None of them stayed long. They drifted through her, around her, like memories taking a final bow before fading back into silence. Elia felt no fear, only awe. She understood, somehow, that this place was not meant to be solved like a puzzle. It was a gift, a reflection, a quiet promise that nothing loved is ever truly lost. And though these fireflies were no longer flying in the world outside, their stories still glowed here in memory, in books, in breath. She turned slowly, heart full and eyes soft, and followed the firefly once more as it led her out of the library. The dreamscape faded gently behind her, as if it had only opened just for her, Just this once, the trees returned. The ground felt solid beneath her again, but something in her had changed. She walked in silence, the firefly just ahead, its glow steady and kind. She didn't know what she was walking toward, but she knew she would understand when she got there. The path curved slowly now, as if it too were tired from holding so many memories. The trees opened just enough to let the moonlight fall across Elia's shoulders, cool and comforting. The firefly stayed close to her cheek, its golden pulse matching the rhythm of her breath. There was no destination in sight, yet Elia, in fact, she felt more found than ever. Her thoughts drifted back to the library without walls. The fireflies hadn't left. They had simply moved into stillness, into silence, into memory, forming a gentle alcove where the ground dipped softly. In the center stood a ring of smooth stones, and in the middle of that ring, a single patch of earth that shimmered with dew. Its light dimmed slightly, not in weakness, but in reverence. It was time for Elia to understand. She stepped into the ring, heart quiet, mind open. Kneeling gently, she placed her hand against the earth. The soil was cool and pulsing faintly beneath her palm, as if something old and gentle was breathing just beneath the surface. She closed her eyes, and then she remembered. Not a specific moment, not a face or a name, but a feeling. That somewhere along the way, when the world had grown loud and shadows had stretched across the edges of her heart, she had forgotten. But the firefly had not. It had waited. They came from release, the soft relief of knowing she did not have to chase brightness. She only had to uncover it within herself. It had never truly gone out. She sat in the stone ring for a long time, breathing with the valley, feeling the peace settle into her bones, like moss taking root on a rock. When she opened her eyes, the firefly had begun to glow again, this time brighter than ever before. Not just a soft golden flicker now, but a steady, full light, warm and alive. It drifted down toward her hand and landed on her palm. For the first time, she saw its wings, clearly delicate and glistening like spun glass. The light it carried pulsed once more, and in that pulse, Elia felt the echo of her grandmother's voice. "You found it, my light." Elia didn't need to ask what. She already knew. She rose slowly, heart quiet but full. The firefly rose too, lifting just above her shoulder, as if to guide her one last time. But now, it was different. She followed with trust. She took a deep breath, one that felt like the kind taken before a turning point, and stepped back onto the path. And then, just as she thought it was over, the firefly turned and led her toward the final place. Elia followed the firefly through a grove she hadn't noticed before. The trees here were thin and silver-trunked, their leaves pale as frost and rustling with a sound like distant lullabies. The ground beneath her feet had changed, was soft, springy, like stepping on clouds folded into moss. The air shimmered faintly with colors she couldn't name, and the path, though invisible, unfolded perfectly with each step, as though the valley itself was welcoming her into a dream. Ahead, the trees began to part, forming a natural archway that pulsed with golden light. As she passed beneath it, her breath caught in her throat. A clearing opened before her, but it was unlike anything she had seen in the waking world. Fireflies, hundreds of them, they hovered above a still lake, their glow mirrored in the water below. So the sky and earth were one, blending into an endless field of light. They moved without sound, blinking in slow harmony, painting stories in the air. Constellations formed and dissolved, blooming like breath. Time softened. The stars above flickered in rhythm with the fireflies below, as if the heavens and the valley had remembered each other. At last, Elia stood still, bathed in golden glow, and slowly began to smile. It wasn't the wide grin of surprise, or the teary smile of reunion. It was something deeper. A smile born of quiet understanding, of witnessing something sacred and fleeting, and being allowed to step inside it. The firefly, who had led her here, circled once around her shoulders, then rose high into the air and hovered among the others. For a moment, Elia couldn't tell which one it was. They all shimmered with the same gentle brightness, the same knowing. She took a few steps closer to the water's edge and saw her reflection. But it wasn't just herself. She saw, standing beside her reflection, was the figure of a woman, faint, luminous, smiling softly. Her grandmother. She wasn't solid, not really, but the presence was unmistakable. Elia didn't move. She didn't need to. The figure nodded once, a gesture of quiet pride, and then slowly faded into the light. The fireflies above her pulsed brighter for a moment, as if in silent applause, and then began to drift upward. One by one, they rose like lanterns, disappearing into the star-soaked sky. Only one remained, her firefly. It circled her one last time, close enough for her to feel the warmth of its light on her skin, and then floated to her chest, resting over her heart. For a heartbeat, the glow expanded, surrounding her, filling her. She felt it settle into her, not as something separate, but as something returned, not borrowed light, her own. The firefly rose slowly, hovered a moment longer, then turned and joined the sky. Elia watched until the very last flicker was swallowed by stars. The clearing dimmed, but not into darkness, into peace. She turned, the air around her still glowing faintly, and began the walk back through the archway. The dream had passed, but something real had been left behind. The path back through the silver trees felt different now. Elia walked slowly, not out of weariness, but out of reverence, as though her footsteps might stir the magic still lingering in the air. The branches no longer whispered mysteries, but hummed with quiet approval, as if the valley had seen her, known her, and now gently released her back to the world. The night had deepened, yet it did not feel dark. A soft glow seemed to follow her no longer from the firefly, but from within. Her heart was calm, steady, full of the warmth of things remembered and things newly understood. She had come here hoping for a glimpse of something lost. She had found, instead, a part of herself she hadn't known was waiting. When she reached the willow grove, the bench still sat beneath its swaying arms, the journal resting where she had left it. She paused and touched its cover with her fingertips, smiling softly. There was no need to take it. Its story had already been passed on. Its pages would wait for someone else, someday, who needed to remember too. She moved on, her boots brushing the dew-laced path, now familiar in the way dreams sometimes become. The clearing with the pond came into view, the stars beneath the surface still glowing gently. She knelt one last time at its edge, whispering a quiet thank you, not just to the firefly, but to the valley itself, to the silence, to the remembering dot. By the time she reached the edge of the valley, the sky was beginning to shift. A subtle pink light threaded itself through the darkness, not yet morning, but close, the first breath of dawn. Her house stood quietly at the edge of the world, waiting just as it always had, yet somehow it looked different. Or maybe she did. Stepped through the gate and into her yard. The wooden fence, now no longer a boundary, but a place she had crossed and returned from. Inside, the windows still held the silver shadows of night, and her boots left soft, damp prints on the floorboards. She removed them, set them gently by the door, and walked upstairs to her room outside her window. The valley stretched in stillness, and in that stillness, a hush of gold shimmered in the grasses, a memory, a presence, or perhaps a promise. Elia climbed into bed and pulled the blanket over her shoulders. She didn't feel tired, but restful, the way earth must feel after rain. She placed her hand over her chest and closed her eyes. She had gone far, but all she needed was already inside her. The valley exhaled, and the world quieted. Elia's breath rose and fell in a steady rhythm, soft and slow, as the blanket settled like a cloud around her. The warmth of the bed curled beneath her like a nest of feathers and moss. Outside her window, the grasses swayed with the breeze, and beyond them, the valley still shimmered in that soft way light does when it's not trying to be seen. The stars above faded into a pale silver wash, and the horizon, barely waking, held the hush of everything still dreaming. She lay still, her eyelids fluttering, her thoughts no longer holding shape, just sensations now, the cool air kissing her cheek, the feeling of safety tucked beneath her ribs, the afterglow of golden light still lingering in her chest, in her mind. The firefly's gentle glow returned again and again, like a lullaby made of light. One blink, pause, blink, and rest. Its rhythm settled deep in her heartbeat, a slow pulse of calm, a signal that everything now was quiet, whole, and safe. Imagine now the tall grasses of the valley whispering softly as night hums around them. Imagine the sound of a gentle stream drifting over stones, smooth with age. Imagine the petals of bluebells closing for the night, and the stars folding into clouds, like stories closing their last pages. The earth is still, the trees sleep, the sky breathes low, and you, too, are drifting down, down like a leaf falling into the arms of the quiet world. Your body is floating now. No effort, no holding on, just release. The room fades, the valley fades. There is only softness, there is only stillness. You are safe, you are light, you can rest now. The valley is silent now. No voices, no footsteps, only breath. Above, the sky stretches endlessly, soft with stars. They blink slowly, like tired eyes finally beginning to close. The wind has stilled, and the trees no longer sway. Every branch, every blade of grass, every sleeping stone has exhaled and settled into peace. The house on the hill is quiet. One small window glows faintly with the warmth of someone dreaming. Inside, a child rests, cradled in blankets, her heartbeat steady, her breath soft. Her journey has ended, not with a goodbye, but with a return. She is home, and the valley, too, has returned to sleep. Somewhere in the tall grass, a final spark flickers. It rises, slow and weightless, and drifts into the sky. A single firefly. Its light fades softly into the stars. And then there is only stillness. Stillness like water. Stillness like sleep. Stillness like the end of a lullaby. Let yourself fall into that stillness now. No thoughts, no time, only rest, only light, only peace.